Made a video on the DRZ 400 and my stunt setup on that, and well, I have two stunt bikes, so why would I show one off and not show the other? If you're just starting to get in stunt riding, this is a bike I'd recommend. You're probably already looking at like something like a Grom or a Z125. I went the different route. You see a bunch of Groms, you don't see a whole lot of Z125s. Personally, I like the Z better than Groms that I've ridden in the past, and I'll just break it down, my specific setup on it, just like I did the DRZ. This is going to be a very similar video in the format that it is, but there's definitely not as much to this bike. It's very straightforward with this bike, and that's the number one reason I chose to build a Z. Parts are a little bit harder to come by, and there's a little bit of a longer wait time for it, but it comes out of the factory pretty much ready for anything you could throw at it, really, so that's why I chose it. Same with the last video. I'll start up front and work my way back. Not much to talk about right here. I mean, other than I just have a purple running light, but all this is stock fluid in the fork, stock springs. I would like to maybe change that one day, but it's definitely not a necessity. Stoppies aren't a problem for me on this. I'm consistently getting better at them. Right here I have my RSC stunt clutch lever that I stole from the DRZ, and the reason for that is on the other end of this I have 60% stiffer springs and clutches to match that, so I definitely needed a true easy pull, because that is a very hard pull for those springs, but you do get used to it over time, and it really does help with like second gear, third gear clutch ups. Underneath that, Magura HC1 again, but this one's a 13mm Handbrake master, and all of this is on a set of ProTaper SE KLX DRZ 110 bars. All that basically does is it's a little bit taller, or I mean a little bit shorter and a little bit wider than stock bars. Relocated all my switches and stuff for to make the handbrake fit where I want it. I like my handbrake and my clutch kind of close together. Moving on, I have FTP steel rear sets. I don't know if they're still making these or not. I think the last time I talked to Jason, he said they're not, but they do make like an aluminum one now, because he said he was getting some feedback from some other people that these were actually so tough that they were bending the frames. I haven't had that problem, and they've really held up well for me. They actually stick out a little bit farther than the sub cage, and they do a real good job of keeping the rest of the bike off the ground. I mean, as you can see, for the most part, everything's in one piece. The only thing I do have that's slightly messed up is a bent stock front brake lever. I definitely recommend you, even if you got to go through like ZZ Designs, or I think ZZ Designs is the only other ones that were making steel rear sets for this bike, so I definitely recommend it. Moving on back, I'm +5 in the rear for my gearing, and that's it. It's a pretty conservative gearing for this bike, but it does well in the lot. It does pretty decent in the street. Moving on to my favorite part, Get Bent Designs 12 bar with the tie bar on the end. I'm not going to explain again why that's important. If you want to see why that's important, go look at my DRZ video. And I explained in that video why I think running a piece of titanium on your 12 bar is important, even if you don't plan on scraping. This is really nice sturdy pegs, Delrin on each side, foot plate, that's in a good comfortable position. Bolts up underneath the tail and to the frame down below, so it's got 4 points of contact, and it's real sturdy. I've been down with it a bunch of times, and no tweakage, no issues nowhere. So cheap ass Amazon exhaust, I think it's called AR Racing or something like that. It's like 80-90 bucks, and that was just for the sound. And I really don't like the sound of this one. I'm probably gonna get like a Zoom loop exhaust or something here shortly, but I mean, it does what it does. It's a mini bike. I'm not real worried about what it sounds like. Matching with the Magura Handbrake Master for my handbrake bracket, I'm running a PSD handbrake bracket for the Z, paired with a Brembo P34. I want to say this is a 65-inch HEL line. I will say there's two different options you can go with on this handbrake setup, and the base one runs a P32 with a 13, and I really don't recommend it. There's no option for a Z to run a big brake kit, and the P32 just doesn't have the grabby stopping power that you really want. I mean, it does work. I'm not gonna say it doesn't, but like I said in the last video, I like really touchy brakes, and the P32 was just kind of like vague feeling. So I stepped up to a P34, and I love it now. Right side still rear set. Like I said, I run 60% steel, 60% stiffer springs for my clutches, and that's about it for parts. I mean, it's a pretty simple build. Oh yeah, and a F4i idle adjuster from the thesicshop. Unscrew the old one, screw this one right in its place, and I just drilled a little hole right here in the fairing, zip tied this to that, and now I can adjust my idle on the fly as I want. And that's it for parts. I mean, it's like it's very much like the DRZ is, in the fact that it's very straightforward. You know, as long as you're getting good parts, there's not a lot you could go wrong with on this bike. It's not like the Grom or the DR. There's no oil mod that's needed to be done. The oil pump is in the back of the motor, so you can ride as long of wheelies as you want to on this bike, and you'll never starve for oil. But yeah, I mean, it's sick. I love it. It's I hate to admit it, but it's my favorite bike to ride. I ride this one a lot more than the DRZ just because I've never jumped on this bike and not had a good time. It's pretty fucking fun. I will say, in the lot, or in the street rather, I do wish it had a little bit more power, like a little bit more torque. So I've been thinking about maybe doing a 143 big bore upgrade and doing the Hodar ECU reflash, just because the Hodar would probably be the main thing anyway, because the Z's, they don't like the higher idle, and as long as you stay moving you won't have a problem with it. But if you ever get caught at a red light or something, you'll hear people talk about limp mode. You can run higher idle on these as long as you make sure you turn it back down before you cut it back on. And but I've run it for a while and I've not had too many issues with it. I mean, I have been caught in a couple embarrassing situations, just stalled at a red light, but I mean, it is what it is. It's a stunt bike. An ECU reflash is like $500, $600, and like I said, this is just a little fun mini bike for me, and I don't really see the need in it right now. You know, maybe if I do the big bore kit, I know I'll have to do something then, so I'll probably go with the Hodar for that. It's a little bit simpler to build than the DRZ. It costs about the same just because the parts for it are extremely expensive. There's not big of an aftermarket, so the parts you buy, most likely you're gonna have to buy new from a distributor. You can't get away with buying them used like you can on a DR or a Grom. But yeah, if you want to build a Z125 stunt bike, I say go for it. It's a ball of fun, and I love mine. So like I said, same thing as last video. If there's any questions you got about this build or something that I've done or didn't bring up in this video, just leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Peace.